it takes work, and it's also not charity. Like, real estate investing is not charity. It's a business. Charity has its place. Charity is important and extremely beneficial to those who are receiving the assistance, but that's not what this is. Like, housing is not charity, right? So I'm a landlord, right? I will not let any of my tenants live there for free because it's a business, right? I'm providing a service. And in exchange for that service, you're providing me with money. That's just how it works.
It's the Black Real Estate Dialogue. Tune in, tune in, tune in, tune in.
The reality for a lot of you is that investment properties where you live have become absolutely unaffordable. Here's the good thing though. Around the country, there are so many cities with affordable investment properties, some even under 100,000. So there's a lot of opportunity out there. On September 20th, I'm starting a 4-week virtual intensive workshop that'll show you how to buy your first out-of-state property. So we're going to go over everything from creatively financing that first property, how to build your team that you can trust, how to find and analyze properties, and how to find the right location, and so much more. You deserve to build wealth for your family. You deserve to invest in real estate. It's simply a matter of getting the right information. So I want to see you there. If you're interested, go to outofstatemoney.com/workshop or click the link in the description of this episode. I'll see you there. All right, everyone, welcome to another episode of the Black Real Estate Dialogue. We're going to jump right into this. But before that, if you're on YouTube, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who you think will find this valuable. If you're on the audio side, make sure you leave us that 5-star rating and review. Goes a long way. All right, so let's jump right into it. This is going to be a solo episode with myself, and we are going to talk about a recent headline that I absolutely had to talk about. So tenant right activists showed up to protest and crash a party put on by the Berkeley Property Owners Association to celebrate the end of the 3+ year eviction ban. So up in Berkeley, California, which is in the Bay Area of California, the eviction ban was in place from March 2020 and it ended August 31st, 2023. So the eviction ban, the moratorium, meant that you could not evict anyone during that time. So in this episode, we're going to talk about what transpired at the event. We're going to talk about some of my thoughts about the celebration, about all this stuff. So we're definitely going to get into it. So according to the article that I read from the New York Post, the protesters came in, they were yelling things like parasite, get a job to landlords. And the landlords were saying, we are celebrating the end of tenants who could have paid rent, but chose not to. And here's the thing, right? The best case scenario for any landlord is that tenants continue to be employed, is that tenants continue to pay, because nobody wants to go through the eviction process. The eviction process is an absolute nightmare, and it's even worse in some cities. So the best case scenario is if somebody can continue to pay. And I feel for these landlords because in some cases, they didn't receive any aid, or the tenants received the aid and did not give it to them. In many cases, that aid was not given directly to the landlords, which I think is the fault of the government. And so I definitely feel for these landlords. And, here's the thing as well. Someone said parasite, someone said get a real job, but it takes work to be a landlord. It's not fully passive, even if you have a property manager. It takes work to maintain that. It takes work and money to acquire the property, to find the right property, to make sure all the numbers work. It takes work to find tenants. It takes work to screen tenants, to manage tenants. Like, all of these things take work. It takes work to find a property manager, or it takes work to self-manage. It takes work to manage the property manager. It takes work. And it's also not charity. Like, real estate investing is not charity. It's a business. Charity has its place. Charity is important and extremely beneficial to those who are receiving the assistance, but that's not what this is. Like, housing is not charity, right? So I'm a landlord, right? I will not let any of my tenants live there for free because it's a business, right? I'm providing a service, and in exchange for that service, you're providing me with money. That's just how it works. We don't live in a society where stuff can all be free. Maybe there's countries where that is the case, but the United States of America, that's just not what it is, right? And again, they're celebrating the end of tenants who could have paid rent but didn't. The story that rarely gets told is in these cities and states where there were protections where you could not evict folks, you didn't even, in many cases, tenants didn't even have to show proof of hardship. So what that turned into was a lot of tenants who were taking advantage of the protections, who were still working, who were still employed and still had their finances and money coming in, were going on vacation, were doing other things with their rent money because they didn't have to pay because they were protected during that period of time. So I blame terrible oversight by the states, by the cities, of not making sure people actually had hardship. And I do empathize with those who lost their jobs and found themselves in difficult financial positions and eventually could not pay. You know, folks who perhaps are living paycheck to paycheck. I get that. I understand. And that's a terrible situation. There were a group of people who were in that situation. However, I want us to make sure we understand there were plenty of folks who were employed, who had money, and simply were taking advantage. So I just think we need to have some more balance to this conversation. And the sad reality is, you know, if someone doesn't pay rent, eventually you're going to get evicted. That's just how it works. When you sign the lease, it's a contract saying that you're going to pay. You're going to pay the agreed upon rate and whatever other fees you signed, and you agree to that. Anybody who's a tenant knows that's how it works. I don't think people should be trying to get over. Again, people lose jobs, things happen, but the consequence, unfortunately, whether it was your fault or not, is that you're going to get evicted eventually. And that's just what it is. And again, I don't think any landlord wants to go through that process because it's an absolute headache, especially in some areas. And so I think we got to get back to the basics, right? It's a contract. This is what you agreed to. And everyone seems to think that landlords are rich. Everyone seems to think that landlords are these big corporations and hedge funds, when in fact, statistically, the average landlord is a mom and pop landlord. What I mean by mom and pop landlord is that they have a property or two. They're just trying to make some additional income, some extra money, and they're not somebody who's actually filthy rich. And the crazy thing is, like, folks think they have it bad with a mom and pop landlord when these hedge funds and corporations continue to buy up these properties. I'm pretty sure tenants will have a worse experience with those folks as their landlord, right? Because they're trying to increase value for shareholders, for their investors at any cost. Whereas a mom and pop, you're savvy, but you're just trying to make some extra money, and it's not at any cost necessarily, if that makes sense. It's a whole different mentality, in my opinion. And I'm speaking as a mom and pop landlord myself. Obviously, I want to make sure I can charge fair rent and make money and also do something people can afford. But I wouldn't say I'm doing it at all costs without any type of compassion, right? I've had plenty of situations over the years where I've been compassionate while also still maintaining my business and making money, right? And so it may not be as flexible or the same with these big corporate landlords, these big hedge funds. And so, you know, I don't personally see a problem with the party. I don't see a problem with celebrating the end of something that was administered terribly. I think it's perfectly fine. You know, if a business owner is celebrating a big victory, whether it be in policy or some other way, I don't think it's a problem to be celebrating. You know, I mean, what would you expect them to do? If you couldn't make money from a property or from a particular unit for over 3 years and you had no recourse, there was no accountability, especially for those who were working and chose not to pay, why wouldn't you celebrate? And I think it's a private event and people are choosing to celebrate what they're choosing to celebrate. I think there's a whole lot worse things in the world people could be gathering about and celebrating than the fact that the eviction moratorium is over. You know, again, it'll be an unfortunate outcome for certain folks who haven't gotten it together over the last 3.5 years, which I think is plenty of time to figure things out. And, you know, for those who were taking advantage and not paying, they deserve to be gone. So I think that's a cause for celebration, in my opinion. You might agree with that. You might not agree with that. I would celebrate too, because I know plenty of folks who had unfortunate situations as landlords and tenants taking advantage, trashing their places. And those stories don't get told. Those stories never get told. And so I don't have a problem with the celebration. Here's another quote from the Tenants Rights organization. So they said the crisis of high rents and homelessness is a direct effect of their business model, we stand by our action and we stand with tenants, with all tenants facing eviction. So I disagree with this completely. To blame the homeless situation in California or wherever on landlords is an oversimplification. Now, the reality of it is some people find themselves in certain positions in life because of their choices. That's just a fact, right? There's a diverse reason why somebody might find themselves in a particular situation, but I think we need to understand for some people, it was their choices that put them in this position, and not the fact that the landlord increased rent, not the fact that the market rent increased or whatever the case is. And I personally think that's a cop-out, and it takes away the personal responsibility from folks whose poor choices led them to a certain situation. Now, that's not everybody, right? But that is a certain group of that population. And, you know, individual landlords also can't control the market rate. When I'm figuring out what to rent a property for, I can't charge whatever I want. I have to look at what the market is saying. I have to look at what the other comparable properties and units are selling for. So I can't just say I'm going to charge $3,000 if the market rate is $1,500. Like, I don't dictate the market rate. The market dictates the market rate. So, you know, a landlord can't set that, if that makes sense. An individual landlord, in my opinion. And, you know, I've had situations where I've dropped the rent a little bit. Like, I've started it somewhere, and based on the interest I'm getting, I may have to reduce it a little bit till I get to a point where I can make money still and also get enough interest so people, you know, applicants and a pool of potential tenants, right? That's why it's important as a real estate investor to run your numbers, right? So if you're looking to buy a rental property in a particular area, right, you want to see what the rents are, right? You want to see how much you can make before you even buy the property, but you also want to give yourself a little bit of a buffer in case you need to decrease the rent a little bit, because you might see what the market is at. The market might be at 1,500 and you don't get enough interest there. You want to make sure you can still make money if you drop it to 1,400. Like, you can still make enough money and give yourself some wiggle room, because you may have to decrease it a little bit to gain more interest. But that's on another note. So overall, I would say I don't think the tenants were correct in coming and crashing the party. Allegedly, they were throwing chairs, throwing food, and things got physical. I wasn't there, so it's possible that could have happened on both sides, but it didn't have to be like that. I think here's the thing, right? If the tenant association was celebrating a victory, you know, perhaps a policy change or something of that nature, and they were celebrating, and the landlords crashed that party, how would they feel, right? So I think we got to be fair here. And, you know, I think it's okay if we see this thing differently. You know, on Instagram, there were a variety of opinions when I posted the headline, and I think it's totally fine. You know, I don't think we all have to agree on everything. I think it's just about having balance and being fair, right? Usually landlords get the short end of the stick when it comes to this kind of thing. And, I think we just got to be fair. I think we got to be fair and see things from both sides. So that's my take on it. And let me know what you think. Let me know if you agree. Let me know if you think I'm bugging out. Comment, leave a review, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Again, if you're on YouTube, make sure you like this video, subscribe, share with a friend. If you're on audio, leave us that 5-star rating and review. All right. See you all soon. What's up, y'all? Sam here from the Black Real Estate Dialogue podcast. Thank you so much for watching another episode. Definitely take a moment to subscribe. Make sure you like this video. Also, visit our website, blackrealestatedialogue.com, and follow on Instagram at Black Real Estate Dialogue. Talk to you soon.